Okay, so we are live today, and we are just going to take a minute before we really jump in to allow people to enter the room today. And we wish everyone a warm welcome. We are really excited for this, and we are in the Christmas spirit. We've just spent a little half-hour prepping and had technical issues as per usual, but hopefully we are done with that now. So a warm welcome to everyone, and a warm welcome to our panelists. So without further ado, I believe that we should get started. Great. Okay, warm welcome to our Pain Point Therapy webinar. That is a review of this past a little bit crazy year, and we're super happy to see many of you here today. My name is Clara Edwards. I will be your moderator today, and I'm also in the daily SustainLab's sustainability coordinator. And before we jump into the presentation, we're just going to do some quick housekeeping. We are intending to keep the presentations until about past. So if you need to leave early, that will be a good time. But please don't, because we will have a Q&A session at the end. So please leave your questions in the chat. And if you'd like to direct it to someone specific in the panel, you are super welcome to do so. And we will, of course, ensure that we direct the words accordingly. And no one else can see what you write in the Q&A chat, so feel free to be as stupid questions as you wish to have them. And before we also start, I wanted to let those of you know who haven't heard about SustainLab before, who we are. So a super short introduction to SustainLab is that we are a SaaS, a sustainability management platform. We help companies across the Nordic region, but also across Europe, to automate collection and visualize and analyze sustainability data, regardless of where it comes from and in what format it comes in. And of course, now we're of course focusing a lot on CSRD implementation with our new CSRD module. But while a platform is an essential tool, success requires other elements. And usually at SustainLab, we talk about PPP, platform, process, and people. And we focus on processes a lot because that helps our customers access their data, and we work with structure and data strategies. But we also emphasize people, both the internal teams in our customers' organizations that enable effective collaboration and distribution of the work, but also the external people, for example, us as a platform provider, but also our ecosystem of partners. And all of our partners in our network really provide the expertise in various implementation projects. We share connections, we contribute to innovation, we get industry best practice, we get a wide variety of knowledge and perspectives. And we see really that this aligned purpose and this joint mission, if you want to use those terms, is a great catalyst for change. And today we wanted, as a little Christmas gift, to share some of that with all of you. So I have gathered an expert panel. I hope that's okay that I call you all experts, to share some of their insights and learnings from this past year. And I think it's really interesting because they come from various fields, so they bring quite complementary expertise. And I really hope and very much believe that the combinations of these people will be a good and interesting webinar today. And I will let them present themselves as we dive in, but very briefly, our speakers are Michaela Schein, who is a sustainability strategist and specialist. We have Agneta Poander, who is a senior consultant with Poander Partner. We have Elinor Axelsson with us today, who is a founder of Pailo, which is a rather new company, but they focus on supporting companies in choosing their ESG software, desperately needed today as the market is exploding. And last but not least, we have Ashkan Paxarek, who is an academic researcher and sustainability impact consultant from Brunel University of London. And I'm super excited to hear more from each of them. But first, I'm going to take a little breath and just what a paradigm shift we are seeing and we are living in this year. Since 2024, we've really seen how companies have transformed both how they work with sustainability and how they report on it. And what we at SustainLab can see, if I get to reflect shortly on something, is that data management continues to be the biggest challenge. Something we've also learned is that success depends heavily on getting everyone involved, from the leadership, from the operational teams, and also your suppliers. And when you engage early with your stakeholders, it's much easier to identify what matters most. But before we invite the panelists to share their insights, we all were a bit curious about our audience today. We are quite a lot of people joining, so we're really curious about your 2024 first. So we have prepared one question to kick off today, so I hope that you are willing to share. So what we are asking today is that if you could use one word, just one word, to describe your organizations or your companies or your personal sustainability journey in 2024, what word would that be? And we can maybe take a minute on this and let you answer. And I just realized right now that maybe I should have a suggestion of what word it would be for me. But I think for me, I would say the word fast-paced. Anyone from the panel, what word would you use? Elinor?
Yes, I absolutely agree with the DMA that someone else have written there. Absolutely.
And now we can see that challenging, complexity. Michaela, do you have any word? What word would you use to describe 2024?
I guess transformation, I think.
That's a big one, a good one.
Yeah, totally.
I'm gonna let Agneta and Ashkan also share. Agneta, what word would you choose?
I think I'll choose the one that's up here in the upper right corner, challenging.
That's very true. And Ashkan, do you have any?
I would say visibility, maybe.
That's also a really good one. And we can see, I like this one, confusion to clarity. Very happy for that person, that it feels like you've transformed moving forward. Super, super good. And acceleration, that's also very true. And I hope that you in the panel can take some of this with you as you start presenting, because that's what we're gonna go on to next. We're gonna hear from our panel about their experiences and their pains first, before we move into what we call pain point therapy. And I'm gonna invite Michaela to start speaking today. So Michaela, warm welcome in.
Yes. Okay, hello everyone. So nice to be here together. So I'm a sustainability strategist and executive coach, supporting companies with creating sustainability strategies, action plans, and everything before that and after, especially now with all the new legislations. And yeah, thank you for sharing the words. It was great. I feel that they fit right into today's topic. And I have now 3 minutes and a timer to talk about this slide. So I think it's really good to just think of what's going on as a tsunami of changes, of legislative changes, entering both the European market and nations, but also global markets and nations. We see the similar actions across the globe, actually, in the US and in China. So it's just so much going on at the moment, and I love the quote from Ursula von der Leyen that the Green Deal is Europe's man on the moon moment, and I really like that. That's the whole spirit with so much of what we're seeing at the moment in terms of new policies. But it's also, since we're talking pain points, I like the photo in the corner there with the terrified or a man, because it's also, it might be the spirit of what's going on, but for the companies, it might not at the moment feels like a man on the moon moment, but rather like, help, I'm drowning in this tsunami. And because what we're seeing is really many policies. I mean, I think there are around 150 or more new policies that in different way will affect you now or the coming years. Policies with a direct financial impact, policies on transparency and reporting, and policies related to value change and interactions with suppliers. And of course, all the sector specific policies as well. And these are just some examples. I've been sitting in some meetings lately where the focus is the CSRD, and I bring up the topic of the taxonomy, which you also need to report on now, and people go, what? Like, that was not the case before, and like, how does that fit into the process? And then you mentioned the EU Pay Transparency Directive and the possibility of needing to actually pay possible pay gaps retroactive. So it's just a lot to keep to know about, and also to align in your processes. And I think one heavy pain point this year is not only the knowledge part, to understand and to grasp the full picture of everything that is going on without drowning, but it's also to slowly move in to try to align all these different policies and processes to really find like a base camp, so to say, where you look at the wider picture and see how it all fits into your specific company. And I think that's about as much time as I have, so I leave over to the next pain point.
Great, thank you, Michaela. I think you got the big pain, the fact that this is happening, the big picture and the framing. And I know Agneta and you have very similar day-to-day lives. You help a lot of companies with the DMA. So we're gonna move on to Agneta to present her reflections from this year.
Hi, everybody. Agneta Poander. And as you said, I work as a senior sustainability consultant, and I help companies accelerate and also integrate and also create value through their sustainability work. And a great pain that I have seen a lot of this year is the word that actually came up first in the cloud, the DMA, the double materiality analysis. And from a pain perspective, I feel that many companies see it as a big mountain to climb and quite unclear routes how to get up there. And one part that I hear a lot is that, how can we work on this when it's a moving target? It's not finalized yet. You don't have any praxis out. And also the guidance continues to evolve. And this, of course, in combination with that, it is a very challenging and comprehensive directive with a great complexity. Those two in combination makes it a bit tricky. And the second part that I hear, except from the moving target, is the lack of reliable data. So many companies find it really difficult to assess and prioritize the impacts, risk, and opportunities for the ESG across the value chain, for the reason that they have a really complex value chain, and also that most of it is indirect impact. So many companies don't yet have systems, data systems, or collaboration experience to capture this kind of information, which makes it really difficult to do the assessment on scale, scope, irremediability, magnitude, and likelihood. And in some cases, it might be that you previously have had really competitive situations and lack of transparency, what your supplier actually has made a product out of, and their impact back in the chain. So lack of data and a lack of experience in collaboration with presumed competition partners. The third one is that many companies say a lack of both money and time. Because doing a robust double materiality analysis requires time, expertise, and also finances. And for many companies, particularly if you happen to be a listed small company, you don't have those resources, you don't have that time, you don't have really that finances. That could, of course, be for medium and large companies as well. So this is a real challenge. Because most companies have a lack of both money and time. So these are great pains that I've seen this year.
Great, you're leaving us on a very positive note here, that it's a struggle coming from this year. But we're going to stick in the pain a little bit more. So I'm going to invite Ashkan also to share, of course, your reflections from this past year.
Thank you very much, Clara. Good morning, everyone. I'm Ashkan Paksaresh, Assistant Professor in Strategy and Innovation at Brunel University in London. I'm also a consultant in ESG Impact and Compliance. Well, in my view, when it comes to CSRD and DMA, companies face four main challenges: fragmented data, lack of measurable goals, inconsistent reporting standards, and of course, the most challenging, limited visibility in Scope 3 emissions. First, fragmented data and unclear definitions are significant issues because effective reporting relies on accurate data, but often companies struggle to gather reliable information across different units, such as operations, procurement, finance, and legal, because of maybe poor coordination or sometimes inconsistent data quality across different units, which makes it challenging and time-intensive to extract meaningful insights. Second is the failure to set measurable goals, which actually hampers progress. Many companies, especially small, medium-sized companies, lack the expertise or resources to define clear targets. This leads to reliance on average scores, which can misrepresent actual performance. And third, in my opinion, would be variations in how organizations disclose sustainability data. This makes comparison difficult, as we can see it. And this problem stems from different interpretations of guidelines and lack of standardized metrics, or perhaps rapidly changing requirements also contribute to this challenge. And finally, we have maybe limited visibility in the Scope 3 emissions, which is a major hurdle. While companies manage Scope 1 and Scope 2 emissions, tracking Scope 3, which is related to covering indirect emissions from activities like product use, transportation, and waste, as already mentioned by Michaela, for example, is far more complex. In addition, inconsistent measurement methods, supplier capacity issues, and data gaps make it even harder to address. So this was my summary of data challenges associated with CSRD. Thank you for listening. Clara?
Great. Are we having some technical difficulties here, maybe? Clara,
All right.
Clara, can you hear us?
Maybe I can share the presentation until we have Clara back.
Yeah.
That would be wonderful.
Great.
All right.
Perfect.
Eleanor,
Okay,
I
and
guess
I
that's
can
your
continue
turn.
with the
Yes.
next part.
Thank you.
Yes, and you have to excuse me. I have a cold, so that is why I sound like I sound. But I hope you can hear me properly anyways. And while working with the screen difficulties, I can begin saying that I will talk about the difficulties with choosing an ESG system. And let's begin with just saying that an ESG system, as we say in Swedish, kärt barn har många namn, lovely child, many names. So when saying ESG system, we have sustainability management system, system support, SaaS sustainability platform, and so on. We have so many names. But the 4 main challenges with choosing an ESG system is, first of all, the significant cost of change. It takes time choosing the right ESG system for your organization, and it takes time creating new routines. And then we have the second challenge, which is unfamiliar CSRD requirements. CSRD is new for us, so how are we supposed to know how to work with data in the system? And then we have the third challenge, which is overwhelming market complexity. It is a jungle out there. How on earth, are we supposed to know which system that suits our organization the best? And then we have the 4th one, urgent timelines. We are in a rush. I usually say that a rule of thumb is that you should begin choosing an ESG system, for an example, SustainLab, at least 20 months before you are supposed to publish your first CSRD sustainability report. So that are some of the pain points connected to how to choose an ESG system. Perfect. Okay, do we have Clara or Tilda or someone here? Is it working?
I am back, and I hope that you can hear me now. My
Yes.
Wi-Fi, even though I was sitting literally under a router, decided to disconnect from my laptop with great timing as per usual. So I was wondering, Ashkan, if perhaps you could share the screen from now on, and then I will, of course, continue moderation. And I apologize for this very unfortunate interruption. But I'm happy to hear that you guys continued with the work. And I have understood that we are now done with the pains from today, and that is such a bad note, I think, to end a webinar. So we're not going to end by the pains. We're going to continue and moving on to the pain point therapies, of course. So Ashkan, if you are ready to share the presentation, that would be great. And then I'm going to redistribute the word to Michaela.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm just gonna wait for. Does it work for you, Ashkan, to share? Can't really hear you now, but I'm just gonna take 1 second and see if it works. We can't hear you.
And just to those of you who didn't see the slides, now we're of course going to send out the presentation and the recording later, and you will see all of our slides in that summary, of course. Ashkan, how is it going for you?
Yes, thank you. I'm just trying to get it down. I don't know. You can't see this screen now.
Not yet.
Yes, you can. So if you press the slideshow, that would be great. Here we go. So there we go. I think we're on the right slide, right, Michaela?
Yes. All right. It's all
great. And thank you to everyone in the chat who are supporting us. Very friendly.
Yeah, so of course there is much to say, but my small little topic here, just to how to relate to the tsunami of new legislations. other than the actual practical work of digging into the DMAs and all the other actions you need to take. But just to start with some time after New Year to actually map out all the new directive and policies, just look at it and map it. And one way to do it is through the list I added there on the top, like policies with a direct financial impact, CBAM and all this. If you import steel or some concrete or something like that, your policies, some transparency reporting and so on. And don't forget to add your sector-specific policies, because I can see it's a whole mess out there for many. Like there's kind of grasp for, okay, so now we're working with the DMA, and maybe it's not even possible to take in what the other directives will mean. So of course, make a time plan and a timeline and a plan as well. But first you have to do the mapping, so you know exactly what you will need to act on. And then from the perspective of your value chain and your business, and then to just make a timeline that works for you, a timeline and plan that works for you. And also a very important thing, cross-run all directives and find like a baseline of data, because some of the directives are actually asking for the same kind of data. So, and of course, using an ESG platform will support you in that, but like having a base camp, you could say, where you collect the data once and use it for different reporting requirements. And then looking at, okay, so other than this baseline or base camp for data, what other streams and processes do we need? But really look at that, because there are some directives that you can really streamline in a good way. And just a practical thing, when I started to offer translated texts that are, by the way, always provided by the European Union, even if they're quite hard to read, but like when I started to offer that to the companies I support, everything became so much easier. And it's such an easy thing, but it's also easy to forget. When you Google the drafts and all the directives, they're always in English, but they're always also provided in your native language. So do that. I mean, I could see such a big shift, actually. People went like, oh, okay, I get it. And I also, just added in some hyperlinks, really simple human things, but made all the difference. And really important, assign one person to each relevant directive to follow the updates and changes in the field. There's a Swedish expression like örat mot rälsen. I don't know how you say that in English, but so it's important that it's not only one person, like the sustainability manager who keeps track on everything, but like the communication manager needs to keep track on the green claims and things like that. Just share the responsibility. And you also need to celebrate each completed step in this mapping and this creating streamlined processes, because it's a hard thing, but just celebrate it every time and just, expressing gratitude for everyone involved, because that's when people are so stressed, it creates like a tunnel view, like, oh, and then just, okay, we did this, And then, of course, the relief part is that it's not only a tsunami of things you need to do, but it's a tsunami of opportunities. I see amazing things when cross-functional teams meet, learn, and collaborate. So many new learnings and insight when representatives from the different subsidiaries meet in the context of maybe human resources or environment. They love it, actually. And I'm thinking specifically about the DMA now. They love it, and they take these insights straight into value creation and business strategy. And that's when you start to turn compliance into innovation and business opportunities. And just one example before I wrap up, one company I worked with in the DMA, in the financial part, the CFO just realized, okay, I have to update the acquisition strategy because, so we don't buy new companies that will create new challenges for us in terms of value chain effects, IROs in general. So, and it took them 1 week to update the acquisition strategy, and that's quite something. That created a resilience company with that will support them a lot. And of course, and relief is that we will have a sustainable world and future. Hopefully, we will take part in creating something absolutely extraordinary. And that's something to celebrate every day, actually. I see this in so many CEOs. Like in the beginning, they're like, ooh, hard work. And then the end, they start talking about their grandchildren and future generations with energy and spirit and hope. So that's also the relief. That we do this incredible journey together and celebrate again, always celebrate. There is this amazing quote I love, until further notice, celebrate everything. So yeah, to do that one step at a time. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Michaela. And wow, at least my shoulders dropped a little bit with that, and it feels very celebratory. Really good way to relieve the pains. And I hope that we're going to continue on this high note. So Agneta, do you want to share your pain point reliefs?
And definitely. And the pain was the materiality analysis, and the relief. There is actually a relief, I would say. The first one goes a lot on the cloud that you did in the beginning as well. Somebody said confusion to clarity. And that's the first relief point. To start with the end in mind, målet i sikte. You can wait with the second one a little bit, please. And to really understand what you're doing and why. So it's kind of when you put a spotlight on a dark corner and it doesn't look so frightening anymore. So put the spotlight on and some of the ghosts will actually disappear. So make sure you understand what are we doing, what's the end goal. And then you also will understand why do we then do the value chain mapping? Why do we do the stakeholder analysis? Why do we do the impacts, risks and opportunities? And it will hopefully come to what some of you wrote, confusion to clarity. Don't make it more difficult than you have to. The second one is that just start to walk. So you can actually choose. Can you press, please, Ashkan? Thanks. You can choose, do you want to do DMA small, medium, or large? You don't have to go with a large one. And what do I mean by that? I mean both out of what kind of data you put into it, what you actually have, how deep should you go, and what detail level do you choose? So it's a lot better to start walking and doing a small and then improve throughout the years. And don't forget what you have already. If you have an ISO 14001, for instance, or LCAs, you will find really interesting data there so you can get started. And then the next year you can do a medium and you can move on to a large. So you have to be able to choose. The third one, what glasses do you have on when you go into this? Is it a compliance work that is this mountain to climb, or is it actually an insight and value creation possibility for competitiveness? And I can see a great difference with working with those companies that actually choose to see it as a competitive advantage. Because most companies don't set off time to do a thorough analysis of their impacts, risk and opportunities if they don't do a DMA. So you could actually look upon it as you have received a free tool. Somebody else has put a tool in place on how to do it in a systematic way. And you can follow that tool and do it on a small, medium or large depth and width, but you actually have a tool. And it's surprising how often the companies realize that they don't have a common view of where they are and where they want to go connected to sustainability when they start this. So it can actually be a gain and not only a pain.
Really, really good. And I love your slide, Agneta. I think it is really impactful, that as well. And I just wanted to note that we are very aware that we are a bit over time, and I'm going to take the full responsibility and blame for that. But instead of rushing through Eleanor and Ashkan's parts, I want to really allow them to share their parts. So if you have questions that you're dying to get out, please ask them in the chat and we will take them first once we get to the Q&A. But Ashkan, please. keep us motivated? What is the relief from your end?
Yes, thank you. Well, if you remember, I was discussing actually about 4 major challenges to tackle data fragmentation. That was the first one. I would say companies should set up a dedicated ESG data governance team. This team would be in charge of making sure reports are accurate and complete, with representatives from different operations and departments working together to align standards and improve coordination. It is also a good idea to appoint a sustainability data manager to oversee data collection and also keep things consistent and sort out any discrepancies. What seems very helpful is using software solutions, by the way. Tools like ESG platforms or ERP systems with sustainability modules incorporated can pull data from different departments, keep formats consistent, and make everything easier to access. This approach can save time and make data management a lot smoother. To set measurable goals, it is important to benchmark your data against industry peers or use sector-specific targets as a guide. And also bringing in sustainability experts can help align those goals with both regulatory requirements and what your organizations can realistically achieve. When it comes to inconsistent reporting standards, the first step is to align with global frameworks like the EU's ESRS or GRI and so on. Beyond that, working with industry groups to create consistent metrics and practices is actually a key. So you need to stay updated on changes from regulatory bodies and make sure your team is trained to interpret guidelines correctly. But what is missed? The last point, the tricky one. The scope 3 is always tricky because the complexities involved and challenges of indirect emissions are associated with this kind of emission measures. Building strong partnerships with suppliers is critical here, and also providing training and incentives can maybe encourage better reporting across different departments. Also, it is advised to focus on high impact areas first and take a phased approach to include all relevant categories over time. Supply chain management software or IT technologies like sensors or blockchain can be implemented to automate and improve data accuracy across supply chains, particularly when supply chain is complex and include multiple stakeholders scattered across different regions. Thank you very much, Clara.
Great, thank you, Ashkan. I think it is the scope 3 is like the scary monster that I meet every day. It's a scary project to start even, and it's a pain for many. And it seems like a monster that just gets bigger and bigger. So it feels really good to hear that there are some reliefs for it and some tools in the toolbox to actually use. And on the note of tools and toolboxes, we do have our resident ESG software expert with us, who's actually really taking this problem and started a solution for it to support companies in choosing the right tools for their organization. So to end the therapy, I want to invite Elinor to share some insights on choosing the right ESG system for your company.
Great, thank you so much, Clara. So we will begin with sharing 3 examples of areas you need to evaluate and include in your ESG system RFP. And we can click one more time and we can see then what RFP actually means. So that is request for proposal. So that is simply the list of key criteria that your company needs in a ESG system. In Swedish, we call it kravspecifikation, sometimes demands specification. And if we click one more time and maybe even a second time, yes, we see that the first area is level of advisory and support. And then you can please help me by clicking 3 times. And then we see that we have 3 different types of considerations. The first one is company in-house resources and knowledge level. You need to evaluate what you have in-house and what you need to bring into the organization from outside of the organization. And you also need to figure out, do we want to collaborate with an ESG system that is really good at the data architecture and how the data is traveling and transforming? Or do we want to work with an ESG system that is rather really good at setting sustainability targets and coming with concrete actions on how to actually lower your emissions? Sometimes they are different, sometimes they are the same. And then one other example we also have to evaluate is the cost per phone call to the ESG system. How much advisory is included in the price plan? What is excluded? How much do you need? And then we can go on to the second area. And then we have, if you press 1 time, perfect, the system complexity. And then I think you can press 4 times. And then we can see that you have to think of the number of subsidiaries in your organization. Do you have to have an ESG system that can manage 2 subsidiaries, 50, 100? And you also have to understand how many reporters, viewers, auditors that would you like to have involved in the system. And if you have many reporters, many chefs in the soup, kockar i soppan, as we say in Swedish, maybe it's more easy to prioritize a system that is easy on the eye, that it looks good, that is super clear what button to press when. And then you also have to figure out, do we rather want a plug and play solution? It's almost ready to go. Or do we want to have the possibility to make customizations, but that it maybe is a little bit more technically advanced? And then we have the last area, the ESG system scope. And I think you can press 2 times and 1 more time. Perfect, thank you. And then you have to figure out, do we need a system that can help us with creating a CSRD report, that can help us with making carbon calculations, that can help us work with our supply chain? And you have to figure out, do we want everything in one solution that can maybe make it a bit more easier to work with? Or do you want it in separate solutions? Maybe that can increase the quality of each system solution, maybe not. So these are 3 areas you have to evaluate and include in your ESG system RFP. There are many more, but these are 3 of the biggest ones, I would say. So thank you for this.
Great, thank you, Elinor, and thank you for using your voice on us today.
Yes.
And it's a privilege to get what's left of it for this webinar. We're super happy for that. And I think just choosing the right ESG software is really one of the big pains that have faced companies this year, because it's a brand new challenge. It is something that you haven't had to face before, and that of course makes it difficult. And it is especially difficult when there's a time pressure. It's a wicked problem, one could perhaps say. And I know we only have a couple minutes left of this webinar officially. So instead of spending that on wrapping up, I wanted to spend it on the Q&A to allow our audience to actually integrate a little bit more with us. And I'm going to choose one of my favorite questions from those that have come in. And I think one of them is, and I'm going to let all of you answer, if you could send a message to yourself 1 year ago in the beginning of 2024 or in the end of 2023, like what would you wanted to know then that you know now? Does anyone have an initial gut feeling on how to answer that? Agneta?
I would have said start earlier. Whenever you thought you would start, you should have started earlier anyway.
Yes, that's a good one. And of course, it's a bit tricky to be to get that information now, it's easier. It's always easier to think of things in hindsight, but that is very true. So I guess the message is, if you haven't started, you should really think about getting started. Michaela, what about you?
Yeah, I see that Linn Färghage wrote "Trust the process," and I can continue on that, because really it will be fine. Just do the work, and if you can start as early as possible, but whenever you start, it's perfect. Like, you will manage through the process, and trust the process. And if you don't know how to do it, get some help. Like, we are all in this together. So yeah, it will work. But, team up with people.
It's a very good point.
Create the easier journey.
I always say teamwork makes the dream work, which is a little bit cheesy, but it is incredibly true. What about you, Ashkan? What have you learned this year that you wish you knew way earlier?
Well, yes, actually, I would like to echo the same message. Stop early and perhaps focus on building a strong data governance framework or system. Get all departments and operations on the same page, and invest in the right tools for data collection. That is seriously important. Also, stay updated with the regulatory changes and build relationship with the suppliers to tackle, again, Scope 3 emissions. That's really tricky, and it will save you a lot of stress down the line if you start up early.
Great. I think you did a very smooth exit as well from into the background, but thank you. And I'm of course gonna let you answer as well, Elinor. You can be super concise if you want to.
Yeah, it's okay to make things wrong. The ESRS standard is full with examples of how you can correct yourself if you report something wrong the first year. It is okay.
That's a very, very good point. And I think the Q&A platform and the Q&A responses that are compiled by EFRAG, and a new version was released just last week, is a really good example on that, because it is nuances in interpretation, truly, that a lot of people are struggling with. And I think to be a good time manager, which I've failed to be so far, we're going to just take that one question today, and we're going to start wrapping up this session. So Ashkan, if you would like to just move to the second last slide, we can skip a couple ones. You can skip one more, you can continue, and then skip through this one as well. I will be really fast today. These are a few of our summaries, but I think we've already covered them. And then one more, and one more, even one more. Great, because I really want to say thank you to you in the panel. And I also want to say a great thank you to all of you who has attended this webinar. And we will, as I said earlier, send out the slides so you can see everything that we skipped now in the end, and also what was a bit skipped when I had technical difficulties. I think it is a great message from someone that it's time to take a break when your laptop also decides to take a break. So I'm very excited for this break period that is coming up with the holidays, and we really wish you all the best for those times, and that when you come back in 2025, that you've stopped thinking about ESRSs for a little bit, so you can see them with fresh eyes and feel energized once you start your CSRD data collection and then move towards actually reporting in the following year. So have a wonderful break, and thank you for being a part of this webinar today.
Thank you.
Bye.
Happy holidays.
Bye.
Happy